I could be wrong, but I think it's a fact that most people would consider their particular favorite music era to be the one that aligned with their teenage years. Hey, guilty as charged. 1975, a whopping 50 years ago, was a real sweet spot for this rock music fan. I kind of hate to own up to this, but 1975 happened to be the year I graduated high school. I'm hearing talk of a 50-year reunion. Yikes. Anyway, getting back to the music of 1975, I admit I even liked that year's biggest hit singles, which were certainly not rock songs. Captain and Tennille's Love Will Keep Us Together was the number one tune that year, followed by Glenn Campbell's Rhinestone Cowboy. I kid you not. Other big hits of 1975 included Elton John's Philadelphia Freedom, Frankie Valli's My Eyes Adored You, Neil Sedaka's Laughter in the Rain, Earth, Wind, and Fire's Shining Star, and David Bowie's Fame. And Grand Funk's cover of Some Kind of Wonderful. Well, that was quite wonderful. All right, in terms of rock albums, though, that's what we're talking about here. 1975 brought solo debut LPs from the likes of Ian Hunter, Jeff Beck, and Ted Nugent. There were also debuts from the Outlaws, the Tubes, Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow, Journey before Steve Perry came on board, Patti Smith, and a band that I'm still a big fan of, Angel. One of my all-time favorite bands, AC/DC, released its first two albums in Australia, but none in the U.S. until early 76, so I won't be talking about them in this piece. We got live albums in 1975 from artists including Blue Oyster Cult, Eric Clapton, Dr. John, Grand Funk, King Crimson, Bob Marley and the Wailers, Lou Reed, Stephen Stills. And half of ZZ Top's Fandango album was live. The year's biggest live album, though, was Kiss Alive. More on that later when I unveil my favorite 20 albums of 1975. I'll tell you first, there were a slew of pretty famous albums that did not crack my top 20, such as Alice Cooper's Welcome to My Nightmare, Steely Dan's Katy Lied, 10cc's the original soundtrack with the hit I'm Not in Love, Frampton with studio versions of Show Me the Way and Baby I Love Your Way a year before Peter came alive and became a global superstar. Black Sabbath's Sabotage, Kiss's Dressed to Kill, that was before the live album. Roxy Music's Siren, ELO's Face the Music. The Who by Numbers, Squeeze Box on that one. The Kinks' Soap Opera, and two legendary albums by Bob Dylan, Blood on the Tracks in January, and then in June with the band, The Basement Tapes, 2/3 of which was Dylan singing with Robbie Robertson's guys 8 years prior. There were also albums by the likes of the Allman Brothers, Bachman Turner Overdrive, Todd Rundgren, the Doobie Brothers, Bob Seger, Chicago, Hall & Oates, Jethro Tull, Kansas, Deep Purple, Little Feat, and Styx that didn't make my top 20. Okay, I'm going to put up a graphic of 10 albums that would be in my 11 through 20 slots of favorite albums of 1975, but in no particular order. Well, I actually listed them alphabetically by artist. A lot of real good ones here. Man, I played the crap out of Elton's Captain Fantastic and Rod Stewart's Atlantic Crossing. And those two Rush albums, the legendary debut album by Patti Smith was amazing. And I got to tell you, the first time I heard this album, In Trance by the Scorpions, I was blown away, especially by the title song and the opening track, Dark Lady. Check it out if you're not familiar with early Scorpion stuff. All right, without further ado, my top 10 personal favorite albums released in the year 1975. Number 10 is one that probably won't be on your list. It is the debut album by the glam rock band Angel. Yeah, led by Punky Meadows on guitar and vocalist Frank Domino. If you don't know it, check out the first three songs on here, Tower, Long Time, and Rock and Rollers. Fantastic. Number 9 is a double album of songs by the mighty Led Zeppelin, talking, of course, about Physical Graffiti with standout tracks like Kashmir, Custard Pie, and Trampled Underfoot. And I'll tell you, I didn't actually buy this album till a couple of years later, and as you may or may not be able to see, I paid $4.50 for it at a place called Arboria, a great used record store I frequented in State College during my years out at Penn State. At number 8 on my list, the self-titled album from Fleetwood Mac, that was that band's 10th overall release, but first with Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham. It went to #1 on the Billboard album chart the following year and has sold some 9.5 million copies at last count, thanks to hits such as Rhiannon, Over My Head, Landslide, and Say You Love Me. It also happens to be the only album in my top 10 of 1975 that I never actually owned. Go figure. All right. In the #7 spot, a live album that I mentioned earlier, Kiss Alive. Yeah, this fantastic double album stayed on the Billboard 200 album chart for more than 2 years. 6th, an album partly recorded in Philadelphia, the rest in New York City. It is David Bowie's Young Americans with that great title track, the hit Fame that John Lennon helped with, and several other great tunes. Okay, on to my top 5. This band just got nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for the very first time. It is the second album from Bad Company, the underrated supergroup, and their album Straight Shooter. So good, with hits like Good Lovin' Gone Bad, Feel Like Making Love, and Shooting Star, and other awesome songs like Deal with the Preacher and Wildfire Woman. #4 then, Aerosmith's fantastic third album, Toys in the Attic, which made them huge stars thanks to the big hits Walk This Way and Sweet Emotions. So damn good. Third on my list is a true classic, and heck, I'm wearing a shirt of theirs today. It's Queen, and it's the album A Night at the Opera. We still hear the hits You're My Best Friend and, of course, Bohemian Rhapsody 50 years later for good reason. They are terrific songs, as are deeper cuts like Death on Two Legs and the Prophet Song, one of my personal favorites. #2, the album that turned Bruce Springsteen into the megastar that he remains today. Talking, of course, about Born to Run, with that title song plus Thunder Road, Jungle Land, 10th Avenue Freeze Out. Heck, not a bad song on the album Born to Run. And folks, my absolute favorite album of 1975, drum roll please. It was released in September of 75 to mixed reviews, believe it or not, but it's considered a classic, and it is. It's Pink Floyd's Wish You Were Here, another one that I didn't actually add to my collection until a couple of years later, and I paid $2.50 for this gem. I sometimes wish we were there back in the 1970s with those prices. Well, there you have it. 50 years later, reflections of some amazing rock and roll from 1975 that still provides us with a lot of listening pleasure today.